I didn't plan on staying. Honestly, I barely planned on knocking. But there I was, standing outside her apartment with her keys in my hand, the metal still warm from my pocket. And before I could second-guess anything, the door opened. Quietly, like she'd been standing on the other side, listening for me. "Lucas, you came back." She didn't say it like a question. More like she was surprised at herself for sounding relieved. Claire always carried this unintentional grace. Shoulders relaxed, hair loosely pinned up like she'd done it in a hurry, but somehow made it elegant anyway. Around her, the hallway felt smaller, like the walls leaned in to listen. She didn't smile, not fully, just enough for the corner of her mouth to lift in a way I'd replay later. "I found these after you left," I said, holding up the keys. "Didn't want you getting stuck outside." She stepped closer, and the scent of her, clean, warm, something faintly floral, rose between us. She took the keys, or at least she meant to. Her fingertips brushed mine, and instead of pulling back, she hesitated. Just for a second, maybe two. Long enough for a quiet thrum to start in my chest. "You didn't have to come all the way back," she murmured. "I know." Maybe that was too fast an answer, but she didn't call me on it. Her eyes flicked to my face, then away, like she didn't trust whatever was happening in her expression. The hallway was too quiet. Even the old elevator at the end of it wasn't humming like usual. She stepped aside. "Do you want to come in for a minute? I misplaced something else. Thought maybe you saw it." Her voice had that soft wobble she tried to hide. Confidence layered over something she didn't want to name. I followed her inside. Claire's living room always felt lived in, not staged. A half-finished book on the armchair. A mug with a dry ring of tea sitting on the coffee table. The lamp cast a soft, amber glow over everything, warming the shadows. She walked ahead of me, fingers brushing the edge of the couch like she was steadying herself. "What did you lose?" I asked. She stopped near the window, barely turning her head. The streetlight outside outlined her profile in a faint silver trace. "I'm not sure," she said, quiet. I feel like something's missing." That wasn't an answer, and she knew it. When she turned fully toward me, her gaze held longer than it should have. Steady, searching, almost apologetic. Something in her chest rose and fell too deeply, like she'd been holding her breath for most of the evening. I looked down at the keys still in her hand. "You found those," I said. Her fingers closed around them. "Not what I meant." She moved closer. Not enough to touch me, but enough that I felt the warmth of her breath when she exhaled. My throat tightened for reasons I didn't want to examine too closely. "You okay?" I asked. She gave a small laugh, the kind someone makes when they're trying to laugh off something that isn't funny. "You're very direct." "You asked." She shook her head, a hint of color rising in her cheeks. "No, I didn't. Not really." Silence folded between us. Not heavy, just fragile. She glanced at my hand, like she'd almost reach for it, then stopped midway and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear instead. "I didn't expect you to come back," she said. "You sounded like you wanted me to." Her breath caught. Barely, but I heard it. Then, a sharp knock rattled the door behind me. Claire's eyes widened, just slightly, and whatever she was about to say vanished in the space between us. The knock at the door didn't come again. Whoever it was must have walked off, but the interruption left a thin crack in the moment, like someone had split the air with a fingernail. Claire exhaled slowly. "Sorry," she said, though she wasn't the one to blame. "People tend to show up when I least want them to." "Do you want me to go?" I asked. Her eyes flicked up. "No," she crossed the room, brushing past me to lock the door. Her shoulder grazed my arm, barely there, but enough that a small warmth spread under my skin. She lingered close, too close, before stepping away again like she'd realized it. I tried to focus on the bookshelves, the framed photos, anything that wasn't the soft sway of her hair or the faint perfume that followed her. She caught me looking at one picture. Her, laughing on a beach somewhere, sunlight hitting her face just right. "That was a long time ago," she said, coming to stand beside me. "You look happy in it." "That was before my marriage ended." She said it calmly, but her fingers tightened around her elbow. People assume a divorce means something dramatic happened. Usually it's just two people getting tired of pretending they still recognize each other. I nodded. I get that. She looked over, surprised. You've never mentioned... It wasn't a marriage, I said, but it felt like one. We dated for years. She cheated. I kept trying to fix something she wasn't even holding on to anymore. Her face softened in a way that made my chest tighten. Not pity, recognition. Lonely endings, she murmured. We're good at those, apparently. The quiet that followed wasn't awkward. Felt shared. She turned toward me, her hand brushing my arm as she moved. I didn't realize you understood things like that. Like what? Heartache, she said, barely above a whisper. I always thought, you're young, you'll bounce back faster than the rest of us. I don't, I said. Not from everything. She didn't answer. Instead, she reached for the photo frame, but her hand paused midair. Her fingers hovered inches from mine before she pulled them back, curling them slightly like she was afraid of her own impulse. That's why this is complicated, she said. You and me. People talk. They always talk. I shrugged. People talk anyway. Her breath hitched. Not dramatically, just a tiny break in her rhythm. You shouldn't say things like that. Why not? Because... She trailed off, looking away, the faintest flush touching her neck. Because I might start believing you mean it. The room suddenly felt warmer. She stepped closer, enough that I felt the heat from her body, the subtle brush of her sleeve against mine. Her hand rose halfway toward my shoulder, hesitated, then softly rested there. Just a touch, light, careful, but she didn't move it. Claire, I murmured. She looked up at me, her eyes steady but vulnerable around the edges. You came back tonight, she said. That has to mean something. Her thumb brushed my shoulder. Slow, tentative, almost accidental. Neither of us stepped away. Her thumb was still on my shoulder when her phone lit up on the table. A sharp buzz cut through the warmth between us. Claire froze. Not dramatically. Just a tiny pull in her breath, a flicker in her eyes like she'd remembered the world outside this room. The screen glowed with a name I didn't recognize. She stepped back, brushing her hand down her sleeve as if wiping away the closeness. Sorry. I should check that. But she didn't move toward the phone. She just stood there, staring past me, chest rising a little too fast. Claire, I said softly. You don't have to explain. I do, she murmured. Just not right now. The phone buzzed again. She exhaled, crossed the room, and flipped it face down without opening the message. Silence stretched between us. Not the warm kind this time, thin, shaky, unsure. I took a step toward her. Was that? No, a quick answer. Too quick. She pressed her fingers to her temple. It's just a friend. Someone who checks in more than they should. Are you okay? She nodded but didn't look convinced by her own answer. When she turned back to me, something in her expression had shifted, like she'd let one wall slide back into place, but the others were still cracked open. You're making this harder than it should be, she said. I haven't done anything. That's the problem. Her voice trembled slightly. You look at me like you expect something from me. Something I'm too old to pretend I don't notice. I stepped closer, not touching, just enough that she had to tilt her head a little to keep her eyes on mine. I don't expect anything, I said, but I'm not going to lie about what I feel. Her breath caught, again that small fracture in her composure. She brushed past me, pacing near the window. Her fingers toyed with her necklace, a nervous habit she probably didn't realize she had. I shouldn't be thinking about you, she muttered. Not like this. You are. She stopped walking, didn't turn, just stood there, shoulders tense under the soft fabric of her sweater. And if someone saw you here, she whispered, if they saw how close you're standing, or how I'm letting you. A sudden knock rattled the door again. This time, Claire's eyes went wide. Real fear, raw and unfiltered. Don't move, she whispered. She crossed to the peephole, peered out, and exhaled shakily. "It's just my neighbor," she said. "She'll leave." But she didn't step away from the door. She stayed there, hand flat against the wood, listening until the footsteps faded. When she turned back, her expression was different, less controlled, more honest. "You see why this is impossible?" she said. "One slip, one wrong moment, and people will assume the worst." I moved to her slowly, giving her space to stop me. She didn't. When I reached her, her back brushed the door, our faces inches apart, her breath unsteady, her hand rising like she might touch my chest, then stopping midair. "You shouldn't be this close," she whispered. "Then tell me to step back." Her eyes held mine, long and fragile and wanting. She didn't say it. She didn't say anything at all. Her silence pressed against my chest harder than her hands ever had. She stood with her back against the door, shoulders barely moving, breath catching like each inhale cost her something. "Claire," I murmured. She shook her head once, tiny, trembling, but didn't look away. "Don't say my name like that." "Like what?" "Like you're already closer than you are." I lifted my hand slowly, giving her every chance to stop me. When my fingers reached her cheek, she didn't flinch. She just closed her eyes for one fragile second before opening them again, the fight in her expression thinning. "You're making this impossible," she whispered. "You keep saying that," I said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "But you're not moving." Her breath left her in a soft, trembling exhale. "Because if I move, I'm afraid I'll move the wrong way." She didn't say what the wrong way was. She didn't have to. I stepped closer, not touching, but close enough that the warmth from her body pushed against mine. She lifted her hand, hovering it near my chest, fingers curling like she was arguing with herself. "Lucas," she tried again. "I'm right here." She inhaled sharply, and something finally cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough that her eyes softened, then hardened, then softened again like she couldn't decide whether to push me away or pull me in. "You don't understand," she said. "I haven't felt this in a long time. Not safely. Not without consequences. I'm not asking you for anything dangerous." "That's the problem," she said, a faint, shaky laugh slipping out. "You make it feel easy. Too easy. And I can't." She broke off, pressing the back of her head against the door. "I can't want this." "But you do." Her eyes flashed, not angry, startled. She didn't deny it. Instead, she pressed her palm to my chest, finally touching me, her hand warm even through my shirt. The touch felt like a confession all by itself. "I keep thinking someone will walk in," she whispered, "or see us, or hear us, and I'll lose whatever little balance I've managed to keep." "We're alone," I said. "Right now, it's just you and me. That's what scares me most." Her hand slid up, fingers brushing the line of my collarbone. She didn't seem aware she was doing it, and I didn't point it out. Her thumb grazed my skin, light, unsure, devastating. "And then there's this," she said, voice barely sound. "The way you look at me." "How do I look at you?" "Like you're not confused," she said. "Like you already decided. Like you're certain." "I am." Her breath caught again, turning into something deeper this time, want, fear, both tangled. She pushed off the door just enough that our bodies nearly touched, her forehead tilting closer to mine before she pulled back half an inch. "Lucas, if you come any closer, I won't be able to pretend this is a mistake." "I'm not pretending anything." Her lips parted just a fraction. Her fingers slid to the back of my neck, light, hesitant, pulling me closer without fully committing. The space between us burned. And then, a soft click sounded from the hallway, a door opening, footsteps. Claire's eyes widened, pupils sharpening with panic. She didn't let go of me. The footsteps in the hallway paused right outside her door. Claire's fingers tightened at the back of my neck, not pulling me in, not pushing me away, just gripping like she needed something solid to hold on to. Her breath hitched against my cheek. Then a voice drifted through the door. "Claire?" You home. Her whole body went still. Not scared this time. Dread. She mouthed a single word. No. But the voice called again. Closer now, right against the door. Claire, it's me. I think we should talk. I felt her hand slip from my neck, trembling as she pressed her palm flat against my chest instead. Maybe to steady me, maybe to steady herself. She backed away, brushing past me so close her shoulder grazed my ribs. Stay quiet, she whispered. Her voice cracked on the second word. She cracked with it. She opened the door only a few inches, blocking the space with her body. I couldn't see the visitor, but I heard the sigh of someone who'd rehearsed what they were about to say. I know I shouldn't have come by, the man said. But you didn't answer my messages. That explained the phone screen lighting up earlier. Claire didn't respond, and the silence stretched long enough that even the stranger must have felt it. I heard you, he said softly. A pause. Something bitter in his tone. You're not alone, are you? Claire inhaled. A small, sharp sound. And then she did something that hit me harder than any confession could. She didn't deny it. I can't do this right now, she said, voice low, strained. Please, just go home. Claire. The voice softened. You said you weren't ready for anything new. You said you needed space. Her hand slipped on the doorframe. Just a little, but enough. And I meant it, she whispered. His breath caught, the way breath does when someone sees the truth a second too late. You care about him, the man said quietly. Don't you? Claire swallowed. Her shoulders trembled. Then, barely audible, I don't know what I'm doing. The man let out a breath that sounded like defeat. Then footsteps retreated down the hall. The door clicked shut. Claire leaned against it, hands braced behind her. Chin tilted up like she needed the cool wood against her back. She didn't look at me right away. When she finally did, her eyes weren't guarded this time. They were bare, exposed, and furious with herself. You weren't supposed to hear that, she said. I didn't want to, I answered. But I'm not pretending it didn't happen. She pushed off the door and walked past me, fingers brushing her own forehead like she was trying to smooth out thoughts that wouldn't sit still. That was my ex, she said. Not my husband. Someone recent. Someone I shouldn't have let close. Does he think you owe him something? She laughed once, short, bitter. He thinks I owe myself something. That I should pick someone safe. Someone appropriate. Her gaze drifted to me, slow and unsteady. I'm not safe, I asked. You're the opposite, she whispered. She moved closer, too close, until her breath warmed the space between us. Her hand lifted, hesitated, then settled against my jaw. You shouldn't stay, she said. I'm not leaving. Her thumb brushed my skin. Tiny, decisive movement, like a line crossed without warning. Then God help me, she murmured, voice trembling. I'm about to make this worse. Her hand stayed on my jaw like she'd forgotten how to let go. Not forceful, not tentative, just caught. The room felt smaller, like the walls leaned in again, shrinking the space until nothing existed outside the few inches between us. Claire stood so close I could feel the faint brush of her sweater against my shirt each time she breathed in. You really shouldn't be here, she whispered. You don't want me to leave. Her eyes flickered. Not denial, not agreement, just raw conflict shaking through her. She stepped in, the distance collapsing until her forehead nearly touched mine. Her breath warmed my cheek, uneven and nervous. This isn't fair, she murmured. You're too young to carry the weight of my mistakes. Maybe I get to decide what I'm willing to carry. Her fingers slid from my jaw to the side of my neck, slow, tracing the line of tension there. She wasn't trying to seduce me. She wasn't trying to impress me. It was a touch from someone who'd been starved of being understood. I'm scared, she admitted, the words slipping out before she could swallow them. Not of you, of what I'll do if I stop overthinking this. I leaned in, but only just enough for her to feel the shift, the promise of closeness, without taking it. We don't have to rush anything. She let out a shaky laugh, her nose brushing mine for a single electric second. It feels like rushing because I haven't wanted someone like this in years. Her hand curled into my shirt, gripping a small fistful of fabric. A quiet pull. Barely anything, yet everything. Lucas, she breathed. If I let this happen, I can't take it back, and I'm tired of breaking things. Then don't break this. Her eyes moved over my face, slow, deliberate, almost studying the possibility she'd been trying to outrun. When she spoke again, her voice dropped so low I barely heard it. You don't know how long I've been trying not to want this. I think I do, I said. She stepped forward that last inch. Her forehead touched mine, softly, gently, but the impact hit like a confession. My hands rose on instinct, stopping just short of her waist, close enough that she could feel the heat but not the contact. She noticed. Her breath stuttered. You can touch me, she whispered. If you're sure. I've been sure. She exhaled shakily, and the tension in her shoulders melted just enough for her to lean into my hands. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just a surrender of weight, trust placed in the space between us. And then, her voice quiet, almost breaking. I don't want safe anymore. I want real. I closed the final gap between our bodies, my hands settling at her waist with a slow certainty. Her palms slid up my chest to my shoulders, holding me like she finally allowed herself to believe I was there for the right reasons. Her lips hovered dangerously close, one breath away. Not touching. Waiting. Claire, I murmured. She didn't pull back this time. I'm choosing you, she whispered. Whatever comes next. And finally, neither of us stepped away. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Her breath blended with mine, soft and uneven. Our foreheads still touching like we were afraid a single inch of space might undo everything we'd finally said without saying. Then Claire exhaled, slow, shaky, and rested both hands against my chest, not pushing me away, just anchoring herself. She closed her eyes, letting the tension drain from her shoulders. I didn't expect tonight to go anywhere, she murmured. I thought you'd drop off the keys and leave. I thought I'd keep pretending I wasn't thinking about you. I brushed my thumb along her cheekbone. You don't have to pretend anymore. She opened her eyes again, and something in them, something small but decisive, had settled. Not certainty, not perfect confidence, just permission. Lucas, she said, her voice steadying. I don't care about the age gap the way I thought I did. I care about what scares me. I care about making mistakes. I care about people talking. I know, I said. But I also care about you, she whispered. The words weren't polished. They weren't dramatic. They sounded like someone finally admitting something out loud after months of keeping it shut behind her ribs. I stepped closer, sliding one hand to the small of her back. She didn't tense this time. Instead, she leaned into me, slowly, cautiously, her cheek brushing against my shoulder before she settled against me fully. Her arms circled my torso in a quiet, steady embrace. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't performative. It wasn't a movie moment. It was just two people standing in a dim living room, holding each other because neither wanted to pull away first. You're warm, she said into my chest, almost surprised. You're shaking, I replied. I know. A small laugh slipped out, soft, real, vulnerable. It's not a bad kind of shaking. I rested my chin on her hair. Are we okay? She nodded against me. We're figuring it out, she said. Together. That's enough for tonight. We stood like that, quiet and close, letting the room settle around us. The lamp cast a soft glow across her living room. The rain that had been forming all night finally began tapping against the window. Claire pulled back just enough to look up at me. Sit with me? She asked. It wasn't a command or a plea, just a simple invitation. We moved to the couch, shoulders touching, our hands finding each other without effort. She laced her fingers through mine slowly, like memorizing the shape. Her thumb brushed my knuckle, and the gesture felt more intimate than anything else that had happened tonight. This feels real, she said quietly. More real than I expected. It is. She leaned her temple against my shoulder, her breath warm against my neck. "We'll take it one day at a time," she whispered. "I'm not running anymore." I squeezed her hand gently. "I'm not going anywhere." The rain softened outside. Her fingers stayed intertwined with mine. And for the first time all night, the silence felt peaceful. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?